Alright, so Alex, he's a very living man. I just got off the phone with him. I'm going to tell you the things on my Facebook. From the very beginning, I've used it to speak out and to tell stories of real life. And a lot of the stories, I got the information wrong. You can go back and you can see where, when I typed a story about what happened to folks on Pearl Street the first time, I got a lot of details wrong. That's because I'd heard the story secondhand. And like the story about Desiree getting stabbed up in the mountains. I'd heard secondhand accounts that it was Hootie that carried her. It wasn't Hootie. It was DJ. And DJ and I are not friends. I'm very emotional, and I try not to be. But I also believe wholeheartedly in justice. And that requires telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And anybody too scared to come forward with the truth is un-American. That is my personal opinion. If you are too scared to come forward, you are not an American. You do not deserve the rights of the Constitution. Especially when you're turning a blind eye to a man whose rights have been violated. His constitutional rights. I guarantee you I'm more scared than all of you. And that's because I feel the full brunt of it. I've felt for years what having family that doesn't give a shit feels like. Family that never calls. They ignore you except on your birthday to send you something that Facebook reminded them of. So that goes into the happy times. When I start talking, I should really have a calm environment where I can write it down. And if I have paper information or it's electronic, I really need the ability to access that stuff so that I can write it down as it happened, when it happened, all of that stuff. In that environment, I can really thrive. But then there's the elements of homelessness. You have to worry about things when you're homeless. You have to worry about things when you live in your car. Like, you don't really realize until you have to do it, but the cops like to come knock on people's windows frequently, especially if their vehicle looks like it's lived in. What my Facebook is a written record of what I've been through, the situations I was in. It also shows that a lot of people got pissed off because a situation we had talked about or typed about, I spoke about. And they think it's personal, like it's all about them. In most cases, it's not even their story. It's the fact that I heard that story 4 times today from 4 different people. And I'm going, how the hell is this? And then I went through it. I just went through it a whole lot worse. When I don't have that environment, that's when my OCD kicks in. I learn stuff fast. That's OCD. That's its superpower. You jump from one subject to another, reading, and you find something that catches your eye, and you click on that, and pretty soon you've learned about just about everything. And That's kind of my curse. I know how people react, I know how they think, and I know what does the job. I'm at the Temple Free Will Baptist Church here in Bristol, Virginia. I never really read the sign. I was in here last week. I come here every night and I pray to Miss Natalie. All the things that you guys tell me that are fucked up, I pray about. And that's important to me. I make a disclaimer. Before Natalie died, I made this disclaimer as well, and I've done so several times since. I will no longer keep your secrets. I will give your secrets to someone, so that if something happens to you, they know where to look. If something happens to that little girl at Sally's in Pueblo, at least I knew that Miss Jerry was aware. Because it's difficult as a homeless person to get the cops to listen. They just assume your guilt. They assume that because you're homeless, nobody's going to come looking for you, nobody's going to care. And that's why the jails are full, about 80% capacity with homeless across America. It's tough to keep a job when they keep locking you up for whatever the hell they can grab you for. A lot of people become homeless because of abuse. And they end up out there homeless. And they still got a job, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to get up and out. I'm going to get up and out. But then they don't realize that things that they're allowed to do in their own house, you can't do those things anymore. You don't get to shower. You don't get to use the bathroom. You don't get to lay down in a bed. You don't get to clean your house so it doesn't smell like stinky feet in a room full of farts from people who ate just about anything and a lot of it out of the garbage. Homeless shelters are not fun. They're scary places. You got people who are volatile. When you talk about it, mental illnesses, no, you're missing it. It's not an illness, it's a disability. And a lot of these people need to be in housing. That's the point. How are they going to do anything for themselves without housing, without their own place? Always having to depend on other people. Meanwhile, most of these people have PTSD. That computer that Wyoming police took, Rawlins, Wyoming, it shows a lot of different things. It shows a lot of screenshots of people who wanted to play victim. And that's pretty important. You get to see really how many people played victim. Well, two can play at that game. That's why I took screenshots. Do I really consider it a game? No, it's other people's lives. It's my life and my friends' lives. Now, when it comes to cowardice, I can't consider myself a coward. Not having the means to go hunt people down to hurt them, and not wanting to do so. Not willing to do so even if I wanted. That's why I pray. People say pray, pray, pray. Well, I do. Always have and probably always will because I'm stupid. It used to just be thank you. The thing with OCD and that learning really fast thing, the more skeptical, I should say, your environment is, the more you're having to anticipate, especially when you meet new people. That's really stressful, especially when you move right in with them. Like, you don't know anything about these people. And a lot of folks took me in that I didn't know. And they had no idea hardly anything about me, but they spoke with people who know me in real life. And these people got to know me in real life. I'm a scared little rabbit. That whole learning real fast thing with OCD, that's difficult to handle because you do learn extremely fast and people can't really keep up with you. And then because you're able to jump from subject to subject like that with little bits and pieces, a lot of times you grab onto something else that's related to that subject, and that's a really important detail that gathers and is a part of that subject, and so you go off on a tangent about that. Whereas if you write it down as a timeline, times and days and who with, when, it shows a lot of things. Like, I was telling the truth in every abusive situation I was in. I at least let someone know. If you tell me your secrets, I'm not going to keep them. I'm going to make sure that someone knows for your safety. Because if they're going to haul me in or drag me in and railroad me and crucify me, there still needs to be somebody who knows just in case. I also used those words as a weapon. When people who should have cared did not, and when people did not keep their word, I didn't just talk about it. I saved the screenshots. Most of my videos, I'm super stressed. When I'm super stressed, that OCD comes out like a motherfucker. And I can't really hold on to a single subject because I have limited time and I can't run through it all. So I go off on little details. And there's a lot of stuff that I took wrong and a lot of stuff that other people took wrong. The things I said about David and Betsy Prowell, that's true. And although it doesn't come together right in words, when you look at the screenshots, you understand. You scroll through my Facebook and look at each one of these people and look at where it was in relation to the things that I was going through. Like, people really kicked me when I was down. And the more down I was, like, they'd give me promises and give me hope and then turn off the light. This light's on all night long. Fall Festival, October 19th, 5 p.m. Sunday services. It shows myself and Darren O'Connor and our interactions. It shows mine and Peach's interactions. It shows my interactions with just about everyone. But you know, I told y'all what was going to happen if you didn't come forward with the truth. I believe in the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I gave each of you ample opportunity to come forward yourselves. But I also saved proof. That proof is important. That's why there's over 8,000 screenshots that I took. I think I have probably 10 to 12,000 screenshots, actually, but who's counting? A lot of the ones on this computer are repeats. It's an older file that was already on the computer, and then a whole bunch of files that I collected since, of people not keeping their word, of the situations that I was in once I got there. The other thing is, it's also to all these people's benefit to come forward without that. And why is that? Well, I'll tell you. With Tabby, it's because I told the truth and documented the things that happened in her house at the hands of that man. He was extremely cruel, and that shut me down. Graham being a weenie and a dumbass, that's not her fault. Plus, I mean, she's got 6 kids, and Graham is a wonderful man. I mean, he really is. He's sweet, he really is. Like, super sweet. But when I called him out on not keeping his word, like, yeah, he wanted to talk about the Jesus and how he's not Jesus. Well, you're an American. Don't be such a weenie. And I know a lot of y'all are like, man, you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't say that, you hide like a coward. You know how many times I walked in alone into hostile environments? Walking into a courtroom with the officers knowing that I'm trying to write reports about officers in that county, and that's my reason for being at that courthouse on that particular day, as well as seeing Mr. Lopez. I mean, here's the whole Bollinger clan, and here's the guy that killed her, and here's her dad, and the news media, and officers. The news media, they didn't like me. The officers I was trying to take to court and have been very vocal about for years, and now on a public case, I am sure that they were all very well aware. They even went back and had a special meeting just before court because I was there. And Ted came in screaming. Here's a guy who plays victim. Here's a guy who did things he should not have done. See, judging, we all judge. It's the passing of judgment. Whose right is that? If you're going to pass judgment on me, I will pass judgment on you. But if you seek to do physical harm, you're willing to go a lot further than I am. You have to get me really messed up really quick to get me to be violent. And that requires injecting me with drugs. Do not inject me with mind-altering drugs. It scares the hell out of me. Don't strap me down when I'm trying to make a police report. I mean, I'm hysterical at this point. I've gone through hell. And I'm trying to tell these people what's going on, that these officers need to listen. I've been bullied to the point of attempting suicide multiple times, and the police are bullying me too. And I have evidence of that on that computer. I also have it over here in person. But I'm not going to keep your secrets. I'm not. I saved those words for a reason, because it all has something to do with it. It all relates to my state of mind and how I feel, and how it is that when you kick me when I'm down, how many other people have done that. It shows why I'm an asshole. Because I have to be. I don't want to be. But people need to come forward. And if your voice as an American isn't worth hearing and you want to tell me you're sorry, no, you're not sorry. Your voice is mighty, but you have to use it. When Brittany disappeared, I want to say 2014. I even went and saw her in jail. And when Sarah disappeared, she came back to introduce me to her mom. Hannah, she was pretty pissed off. She probably ran away because things that were not good were happening. So she wasn't happy. But a lot of people disappeared. And yeah, most of them got found. But also, the more people told me about themselves, the more I knew how to assess their situation. The more I understood that, they were probably reasonably safe. If they had people, if they had family that they were in regular contact with, that's something that's really important. If they don't have that, they have a higher risk factor. If they have a history of being abused, they have a higher risk factor. If you guys don't like the way that I keep you safe, that's fine. But that's the point, is that I'm asking you to tell the truth about me. If you want to play victim because one of your friends doesn't like me because he saw the news, understand that I have all that evidence for a reason and it's still there. And although some of it's gone, there's a lot of text messages that I didn't take because my stuff got full, or I had issues trying to figure out how to get the account to transfer over onto my computer so I could send it over, and trying to learn how to send it over. And all of these in environments that are not quiet, where I could just sit down by myself with the internet and not have a stressful influence. And it is stressful external influence. A lot of people don't want to admit that their environment was so stressful. Well, that stressful environment is part of why you understand how I feel. But that stressful environment is also part of the reason that you are the way that you are. It's okay for you to get defensive, but not from me. I get it. And I pray because there isn't much else I can do a lot of times. When I'm out here walking, it's because I'm in a really super stressful situation, and I just need to vent. And I don't want to stress others out who don't care. But at the same time, if their story is part of mine, I'm going to tell it. Because it's important. It's who I am and who I used to be. And who I used to be, I liked better than the me that I am. However, the me that I am is probably the stronger of the two. It's because it has to be. It's the survival portion. When you're being attacked from all sides, it's more difficult to gather all of the information at once. You basically do risk assessment, sizing a man up, or thinking about what happens if you approach your prey sideways, if you're a dog, or if there are any wolves around, if you're a goat, or a horse even. That's your primal side, risk assessment. And then there's the numbers assessment, and that's our abstract side, the part that animals don't have. Or, as a lot of people want to believe, they don't have the ability because they don't have opposable thumbs. I suppose that would depend on the animal, though. Some of them have those traits as a species-specific trait. Human intelligence. And I don't mean human intelligence like they think like a human. They do something that we thought that only humans could do. But they only exhibit one of those things. In our abstract way of thinking, we have millions. I gave the police permission to look at all of my Facebook. I gave them that a long time ago. They did not need a court order. What pissed me off is that they had to get a court order after I handed them everything they needed. Dude, guys, take a look, okay? A lot of people, understanding their situation is the key to helping them. With my situation, so much has happened, and so many things happen in such a short amount of time, and I have to try to hurdle all of these roadblocks without my own income. Since, I want to say about 2 months before Natalie died. Right around this time of year, matter of fact. See, when Ken and Leah stole my money, I mean, it was my first $2,000 payment for my disability. And the things that I spent that money on were getting most of my stuff from Nebraska. Brandon Ratner helped me. And we got it all down to Ken and Leah's. And then I spent part of it, I had a list of things that are supposed to help autistic folks. One of them was the Oculus Rift. And so I got that, and it wouldn't work for the only application I was interested in, which is the Yamato. It's a simulator on the computer where you can walk through the ship. So I took that back, or Ken took it back, I guess. And he was supposed to get the money back. I don't know, maybe they saved it for Christmas or something. But then there was the money that I paid him for rent, and the money that I paid for his wife's habit. And they were going out to concerts and things like that, and, you know, they're having a blast. Partying and taking acid and stuff like that. But at least I had the garage out there, you know. But that's where my money went, is to moving my stuff from what would have been my safe place when Natalie disappeared. My perfect environment, really. If I'd stayed there instead of going to Ken and Leah's, because I had to choose between living with in one place or the other, or I wasn't going to be able to afford to get property. And I needed property so that I could have my own safe place where I didn't have, like Susie next door. She stabbed Bob Mick to death in Chapel, Nebraska, outside of Bob Mick's trailer. Just about 8 or 9 months after Natalie was killed. And on the other side is another Bob. But I haven't had that environment since. And that's important. It's important for people to know that that's literally when I explained the things to people that shut me down. These environments have all those things, and that was the point. A quiet environment where I can sit down with the evidence and spread it all out, because I'm going to need to reference it for names and dates and all of that stuff, because it all does need to go into a report. And those screenshots that are on that computer are extremely important. The 3 phones that were stolen in Washington State, and the computer that was stolen there is extremely important. And that's the point, is that this evidence needs to be collected. I've been screaming to have it collected, to get someone to take it. But it's difficult to get anyone to even take a look. I'm just trying to give them all of the physical evidence. I wanted to give it to Rose, Natalie's mom. I wanted to give it to the police. I wanted to give it to Shelly and Danica. And I tried. There's evidence of that on there too. I gave them everything that they needed. And yet they still played victim. So I come here and I pray to Natalie and I say, Natalie, your family is fucked up. Temple free will. I used to say, God only gives you 2 gifts, life and free will. That's all you get. That's all you're ever going to get. Life and free will. And your decisions will affect every part of your life. But so will the decisions of others. People in desperate situations do desperate things, and they'll trust desperate people. And people who are in those desperate situations, when they invite you into their house, or they invite you into their life, understand that they might be stressed and be really loud. Or they might just be there because they think they're going to get some resources out of you. Maybe they saw that people were trying to give you money on Facebook fundraisers. And when you get there, they find out that you don't have that money coming in. Over a disagreement. And that disagreement was with Candace over whether or not it was okay to turn in Officer Michael Beard of Haxton, Colorado. He should have taken my statement. What was he doing harassing Candace? There was no reason for him to go harass Candace on her way to work and harass her on her way to take her kids to school and harass her at work. There was absolutely no need for that if he wasn't willing to take my statement, and he needed to. What he did was harassment. I still have people who harass me over Natalie and her family and want to be angry at me because of what her family did. What her family did was be abusive and then play victim. And you know what? I get that. With as much as they have to hide. But I've also got evidence of what it is that they had to hide. With each and every one of these people, I can establish motive in a courtroom. But there are just so many of them, and most of them didn't do it because they're bad people. They did it because they're in desperate situations. I'm not going to feel bad about saving that. I saved it as evidence. I needed help getting it entered in as evidence. I needed help forcing the police to take it, forcing the FBI to take it, forcing some outside agency to take it, instead of picking out bits and pieces to prevent them from showing up in court. Their body cameras need to be requisitioned. Their reports need to be requisitioned. And in many of these cases, there's a time limit on that. And then there's places where it's institutions like Clearview, where they'll start the video wherever they want and dispense with the rest of it. It's pretty messed up. There are certain things that you don't do to another human being. Now, I love people very much, even the ones who hate me, even the ones who want to be angry because I told their secrets. But you know what? If anything happens to you, people are going to know where to look now, aren't they? Mandy, if anything ever happens to you, they're going to know that you have seen Ted several times in the supermarket. But he has to be afraid of hurting you because of my big mouth. If anything happens to Chloe, my big mouth and Miss Peach's big mouth, Natalie, she really pulled us all for a ringer. But I want to tell you something. With her family the way that they are, I understand why she did what she did. She wanted them to love her. She didn't want to be downtrodden in their eyes. She cared about their opinion. And people keep saying that I shouldn't care about others' opinions. And then when it's not their opinion that I go with, they play victim or pretend I'm not trying to get help. Or pretend I'm not this, or pretend I'm not that. I'm like, you know what? I'm showing the truth. That's the part about framing. You can take out part of it, and it says something entirely different. Like, if you cut off half the board here, it just says Free Will Church. It doesn't say Temple or Baptist on it. And there's only 1.5 crosses, and the full cross is shorter than the half of one. When you don't get the full story, you only get one side. And you don't understand the motives and fears that drive all of us are inherent in this story. And how these people were all afraid to lose what they got. And it's mostly stuff. But a lot of times it's family too. Because if you lose that stuff, like your roof in your house, you lose that family as well. They go into the system or wherever they go. Like that stinky homeless shelter. Saving lives is important to me. And if you guys had tried harder, I wouldn't have had to save screenshots of the truth or conversations. And I did save those. That's how I was able to save the information to show that Andrew Witcher really should be investigated. It shows that I was telling the truth about all of the environments I was in and how scary they were and why they were that scary, despite people's best intentions. When somebody is suffering from a mental overload from people treating them like shit, screaming at each other is probably not the most positive environment for them. And even though it's not my business what you guys are screaming about. It's the fact that you're doing it, and it's scary as fuck. And it takes them a while to recover from that, and when you do it every day, it's tough. And then texting, that's something that I always felt that, you text so that somebody knows that you want them to call you back. And if you text why, then they're more likely to call you back. But then it turns into texting back and forth for an hour and a half for something that could have been said in 10 minutes. And then you take stuff wrong in texting, so when you finally do talk to the person, you got all that stuff that you took wrong or assumed wrong or they typed wrong or the phone typed wrong. And you spend all your time trying to explain to them, no, that's not what I was trying to get across to you. But by then, they're already pissed off and their ears are turned off and they're being assholes and screaming at you over something they took wrong, and everything that you say, they're going to try to twist and manipulate into you saying something else. Well, all right. I'm still not going to keep your secrets. I saved them. I saved them for a reason. To show that the things I said about all of these people harassing me and threatening me and my friends and my family, that these things actually happened, and they did. And I'm able to show people just little bits and pieces at a time, and I'm like, is this something that I'm hallucinating? I like asking people that. And they say, no, you're not hallucinating that. And I go, all right. Well, there's something wrong with somebody, isn't there? If all of these bits and pieces are exactly what it is that I figured, well, that's pretty important to note. I don't tell your stories to be an asshole. I do them to keep you safe. And I can keep you safe to a limited degree by recording the information. But at the same time, I'm not asking you for anything that I wouldn't do. Help me record my information, all of it. And make sure that it gets to the people that it needs to get to so that the right thing is done. That computer that the Wyoming police took from me, it needs to be recovered. It needs to be handed to a lawyer with the police and the FBI and myself, and we all get copies of everything that's on there. And then subpoenas need to be brought forward because, if I hadn't been prevented from having just a room to sit in with the evidence and electricity without a bunch of other extraneous influences, I would have done fine and it wouldn't have taken this long. In every situation that I've been in, people want me to focus on their problems, nearly everyone. And in most of the places that I was, people were strapped financially. The money that I got from disability was all spent before I got it on the requirements of the courts and the court arbiters or court magistrates or whatever the hell the people they assign me to. I got to go see them. And it was just a lot of wasted money. I mean, it was costing me $600 to $900 just on going to court dates in areas that I am unsafe, and then having to go back to somewhere that's only reasonably safer than that, because at least it has 4 walls and a roof. In some of the places that I've been, I have legitimately had to worry about being shot. And in some of the places that I was at, they were pretty decently calm, or it wasn't directed at me, so I'm supposed to just be fine with it. No, it still scares me. When I was up in Hardin, Montana, the lady who took me in, her name was Mary Lion Shows. she had two friends that I gave a ride home, and when I got there, she got there just a few minutes after, and she was angry that there was a stranger in her house. But she wasn't angry at me. She was angry at her two friends who did not actually live there and had squatted there because she'd been gone for 30 days. But she wasn't mad at me. She treated me like I was her brother. And we became friends. I met a lot of good people while I was on the road with a lot of problems and a lot of issues. But also, I recorded a lot of those issues to keep them safe. Hardin, Montana. That place has a lot of missing people, but that's the same with reservations across the United States. A lot of missing people. And when these folks are good to you, they latch on and they are good. Is these people the wrong thing to say? Well, maybe it is. I don't mean it as a racist thing. I meant the groups that I encountered while I was there, regardless of their skin color. It's the mentality that I ran into. But I mostly just hung out with the Native Americans. I didn't hang out with mostly white folks, except at McDonald's. And some of them seemed to be quite racist, and some of them seemed to have the mentality of the native folks. But I don't believe that it's just those particular native folks' belief. I believe a lot of people think that way. And I also believe that not all native peoples think that way. I believe in every case it's the individual that counts. And when I say these people, I mean a specific group of people. When I'm speaking about, well, let's say I'm talking about a room full of people at the Free Will Baptist Church, and I say these people, I'm talking about these people who are occupying this region or this building. When I talk about the rich and I say these people, I'm talking about the rich people in that area, or the rich people who oversee certain things. I guess I should make my ramble over for the night. But what's important to know is that just because I'm nuttier than fucking squirrel turds doesn't mean I'm not right. And many people who have not had their constitutional rights infringed upon as much as mine have, wanted to judge the situation harshly or assumptively in a fashion that's un-American. And in many of those cases, unconstitutional. It's a lot different when it happens to you. Sean, you should just let it go. Well, I did. Look what happened. Anyway, I want y'all to be safe. I guess I'm off my Facebook ban.